Hello and welcome to the first live practice event for the Great British Hangout. We've got an esteemed panel of guests, one or two more to join us hopefully as we move along. This afternoon's Hangout On Air is called How Social Are You? And really we're just going to be looking at social media in general, how we use social media, how we engage with social media, hints and tips that may help us with social media, things we've done wrong. So it's really a number of stories from different people who use social media in different places of the world, in different circumstances, and hopefully we'll get a few takeaways. Because just a quick, because we didn't share this event privately, that was my mistake initially. We haven't got a comment tracker this afternoon, but Kath's going to be looking after your comments. She's going to be checking out your comments in the comment stream, so do please comment. So I'm just going to go through the introductions now. Firstly, and we're going to do a little bit of a world tour here. I think it's on those sort of scales. So I'm going to introduce Kath Dawson. Kath is the creative director at Strategy Internet Marketing. It's a digital content marketing agency in Bristol, which is in the UK county of Avon, I think. Kath is very much into content marketing, she tells us, and also says that she has the coolest cats in the planet. So Kat, over to you, another cool cat. Do you want to say anything? Do you unmute yourself?
I have to unmute myself first.
Another cool cat.
Yes, indeed. Yes, thanks for the introduction, Peter. That's great. Very glad to be here. And I'm looking after the comments, so please do comment and say something so I can add that in at some point.
Yeah, she needs to do something, otherwise she's going to sit there and just look gorgeous.
Comment tracker was my one job.
Okay, so I'm actually in Bournemouth in the UK, Cass in Bristol. That was a journey of about 75 miles up to sort of southwest. We're going to go down to Newquay in Cornwall now, and Sheila Strover is based there. That's about a 165-mile journey from Kath. Sheila's a medical writer, publisher, educator, and artist. She runs the Knee Guru website to bring together knee patients with knee surgeons. One of Sheila's bragging rights is that she named on the patents of 2 arthroscopic training models for knee and shoulder surgery, both of which earned innovation awards from the UK Department of Trade and Industry. She's also written a book on knee meniscus, several children's books, and is busy elsewhere writing about her hobbies, foraging and colrosing, which I did look up and I've forgotten what it actually means. Sheila, welcome to the Hangout.
Thank you. What an introduction. Colrosing is actually fun. It means coal rubbing, and I think it's a Scandinavian woodcraft thing where people used to sit around Scandinavian fires in the middle of winter and carve things in wood and then rub the coal into the cuttings, into the marks. And I discovered recently that I had quite a strong Shetland Island background, and I've been practicing Celtic patterns in colrosing, so that's my colrosing interest.
So we're going to have a colrosing Hangout On Air where you share some of your goodies with us. That'd be excellent. Will. Okay, cool. Okay, next we're going to go over to a little bit further down, about 30 miles or so, I think, from Sheila, down to the original Pirate of Penzance, Phil Aston. Phil is a partner at Genius Loci Digital Marketing, Media and Arts Agency, specialising in the tourism and retail sector, providing website management, design, SEO, photography, and social media support. Bragging rights for Phil, he owns rather too many Machine Head by Deep Purple albums. Phil?
I do. Well, that's my vice. I do collect a lot of vinyl and stuff. So yes, and being down here and literally 8 miles from Land's End, there aren't many traditional record shops left. So I do use the internet profusely for that particular hobby.
And if you haven't checked out Phil's other shows, he does a show with his wife Sue. So you definitely need to check out that because there's some Celtic moves and music going on. On a Sunday.
Yeah, we've got one this Sunday actually at 6 p.m. GMT, and that's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the eastern side of the US. But yeah, I think we gained quite a lot of well, a lot of good feedback from the first music show we did, because they're a lot more technical than these voice-only HOAs. Not that these aren't a challenge on their own.
Of course, they're hugely technical. We found out as we've been doing this first one. So
yeah, so it is even more of a learning curve once you have a musical instrument in your hands. But yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Peter.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Okay, well, we've covered the UK now. We've got a couple of other people that were going to join us, or Irene from Scotland was going to join us. She's maybe dropping it a bit later. We're going to jet off now across the Atlantic. We're going to zoom past New York, and we're going to land somewhere, I think around Cincinnati in Ohio, and speak to Small Biz David. David is, he calls himself Small Biz David. He's been a small business owner for more than 40 years, and apparently he's had 40 years of his mum not knowing what he's doing, which is a bit of a worry. But from what I'm reading with his bio, David loves helping small businesses start up and grow. David, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's indeed an honor to be participating in your first HOA, and you'll find out very quickly. You'll get hooked on them, and you'll want to do them all the time.
Well, thanks, David. I think the sort of panic that went through me today on this first one, I'm sure I'll get past that at some point, and it'll be a pleasure rather than a pressure. Okay, well, a long, long way from David, actually. The furthest way is as a very fine gentleman called Scott Scowcroft. He's based in Seattle in Washington. He revives, repackages, and repurposes great content with an emphasis on video and Hangouts on Air. He is co-host of a show that I've seen and first actually came across Scott, called the Jess and Scott and You show, with the delightful Jess Jewell, and they have a really unique Hangout on Air. If you're in the UK, unfortunately, you have to get about 2 o'clock in the morning to watch it. But so I've done that once actually. But you can watch it on the replay, and it's they're a great couple. They do a great Hangout on Air, and it's a real pleasure to have Scott with us. Thank you, welcome,
thank
Scott.
you. And it's a terrific honor and a pleasure to be here in the film strip with you. And I was happy when I learned that you had a co-host, that you had Kath, because when you have a great helpmate, then it just makes everything so much easier. You can sit back, relax, enjoy yourself, and go from there.
Great. Thanks, Scott. And it actually occurred to me when I was doing this little geography of where everyone is and how far you are away. And one of the things we often moan about in the UK is that, I don't know, we never have enough, there's never enough hours in the day. And it occurred to me that because when we're ending our day, you're starting yours, anything we've not done, Scott, in a day, we can just send over to you. I mean, you've got a whole other day to do it for us.
Great, I'll send you my rate card.
Brilliant, thank you, Scott. Okay, well, let's say there's maybe 1 or 2 other people dropping in at some point during this Hangout, so they may come in, but it's really good to be able to do this afternoon together. And as I say, we're talking about social media and how social are you. One of the things I was doing, I was reading Sheila's bio earlier, and Sheila, you said something very interesting. You said, in general, knee surgeons are failing to engage on social media, and so patients are heavily dependent upon information and misinformation from non-medical service sources. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it comes down to 2 things, really. One thing is that they're just incredibly busy. So when you have a 16, 17, 20-hour day, you don't have time to learn the kind of skills. You know how long it's taken everybody here to pick these skills up. But secondly, the thing that overwhelms them, I think, is the conservative nature of the profession, that they're always expecting their professional body, I think it's called HIPAA in the USA, to jump on them for misconduct by advertising themselves through social media. So I'm trying to look at ways and means of doing it, and because I'm in the profession and outside the profession at the same time, look at sensitive ways that they can engage. And it's actually quite an interesting exercise doing that. So I hope that I'll have some engagement with them pretty soon.
So Sheila, do you do that predominantly on Google Plus, or are you engaged on other social media channels as well?
You know, I have a wonderful colleague called Leah Davies who's pushed me into Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and all the other platforms. But the only one that I've just completely fallen into is Google Plus. I'm absolutely amazed at the potential for it. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg at the moment.
And is there anything particular, any particular reason you would say that? What makes Google Plus for you different than any other of the social media channels you've looked at?
I think the biggest single thing is the communities, and the fact that you can make communities private and semi-private, so that you can engage people like surgeons and still keep their the learning process in a private place. But also the communities. I joined the Hangout Mastery community, and it's just been such fun, really, having people like-minded who pile in and help you learn. But other than that, the whole Google platform just is potentially so powerful, just because I've now got a Chromebook and I've gone completely into the cloud ecosystem. I'm just finding the way of working so amazing. I really enjoy it. So that's Gmail, Google Plus, Drive, Chrome, Chromebook, the whole thing.
So you're a Google gal.
I'm a Google gal.
Google gal. David, I was just thinking in terms of what she was just saying there about the difficulty in getting sort of more professional, let's say, like consultants and that engaged in social media. Your experience, you've had lots of years with business people, starting business people. What's your experiences of actually getting business people into social media? Is that something that is challenging, or they follow through naturally, or?
Actually, I'm probably not the greatest person to ask that question, and the reason being, I spend 100% of my time in Google. I do not. I have a profile in Facebook. I have a profile on Twitter, profile on LinkedIn, but I just don't use them. I spend all my time and resources in Google because I get what I need, I get what I want, and it produces results for me. So to answer your question, I don't make a big attempt to try to get folks myself into social media. Although you have to find exactly what works for you. I found that the other platforms didn't work for me, but they work for other folks. So you have to find what works for you, where you feel comfortable, and you have to really understand what is it that you're trying to accomplish. What do you want to do? They all have their ways of working, but Scott will tell you Google keeps me way too busy to spend more time and resources in the other social media.
So do you want to follow up on that one, Scott?
Well, you have at least 3 people in the panel who are very Google centric. I spend almost all of my time as well on Google Plus, and I tried. I guess it was slightly more than 2 years ago, I left a position as a community liaison for a hospital, and for 9 months. I thought, well, I'll try and reinvent myself, and I thought I had to be a social media manager and know everything about all social media across the board: Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google Plus, that sort of thing. And it was really frustrating. It was really hard to learn all of the other platforms, and quite frankly, never quite got it when it came to Facebook. And then discovered communities and Google Plus and Hangouts, and that just seemed to be perfect. Healthcare, Sheila, you're entirely right. There is such a resistance to social media for healthcare. I really applaud you for trying to crack that nut. I tried to do that for a year and then decided to broaden my scope to more than healthcare, but narrow it just to Google and just to Google Plus and only to Hangouts on Air, and have never looked back. Every platform has its advantages, but it just strikes me that Google is creating a platform upon which small businesses the world can conduct business on Google Plus. The collaboration that's available, the various resources, the idea that people Google, they don't Bing. all of that just leads to it being a winner-take-all sort of platform, sort of like the Amazon of e-commerce. And, you know, the internet is 25 years old this week. In 5 years, we'll see what role all of this that we are just now beginning, what role this will be playing in 5 years.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, I think some of the things you've been touching on already is the sense of the audience. I guess, you know, whatever we do in social media, it is about the audience. Where is our audience? I think in the US more so. There's, you know, Google Plus is a lot bigger than it is in the UK, and so the audience in the UK is still quite small. So perhaps the opportunities aren't there so much so, but it's growing. Phil, have you, from your experience of what you've done, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think it's very different in the UK. My specialism is tourism and retail, and obviously being down here in Cornwall, it's very much a heavily tourist sort of based area, really. I love Google Plus, and you were saying earlier, Peter, about what is it about Google Plus that makes you kind of connect to it, and it's this. What we're doing now is unique to Google Plus. But if you're a hotel that has 7,000 connections on Facebook, and you tell them what your latest activity is going on in your gym, or you've got an offer for Easter, those people will engage. That hotel has a presence on Google Plus because of the SEO aspects of it, but those people who like them on Facebook are not on Google Plus, and it's unlikely they're going to jump ship and join it, because those people on Facebook have invested lots of pictures of their dogs and their cats and their children and all the interconnections they have, and they're not all going to move over to Google Plus. So I think what I've had to say to a lot of my clients is, you go to Google Plus to meet not the same people, but to meet a whole new audience. You've got to see it beyond the way you see Facebook. On Facebook you can say, oh, our spin class isn't running next Wednesday, and people will know not to turn up. On Google Plus they can't communicate. Those kind of businesses can't communicate in the same way. So how social are you? For some businesses, they have to have a knowledge of a lot of different platforms. And I think but some of us on the panel are saying it's great to be able to focus on just Google, and I wish I could, because I'm getting a lot of traction and collaboration opportunities from being here. But for a lot of my clients, they have to invest on Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, not LinkedIn perhaps, but Google Plus is seen as an extra thing to climb over the top of to see what the benefits are. So I think for the UK, I mean, Sheila knows this from the kind of business network groups we run down here, it's still seen as a mysterious, foggy place, Google Plus. It's getting better, but I think we've still got a way to go.
And I think the other thing is the whole time element for any small business owner particularly is, you know, how do you divvy up your time? And maybe it's a case of actually spending more time or trying to find that audience, and if it's on if they're on Facebook, then that's where you got to go. We'd all love to be able to be spinning all the plates, doing all the channels, but I think that's a difficulty. Kath, have you any thoughts, follow up on what your experience is with strategy, internet marketing?
Yeah, sure. I think that I've got a personal perspective and I've got a business perspective, because personally I use Facebook for friends and family, and I use it every day, and it's talking about tele programs and pictures of fingernails being painted and cats doing silly things, and it's just, I mean, I have my Auntie Mavis, my Uncle Jack, they're all on there, and you know, we have a great old time having a chat about very non-relevant to business type stuff, and I wouldn't actually feel terribly comfortable about combining that person with the business person, because I don't think you can do that on Facebook. I don't think you can do that effectively there. And don't tell Facebook, but I actually have another profile, which I know I'm not supposed to have, so shh. But on there I have a lot more contacts who I have no idea who they are. and that's a kind of a bit of a legacy thing that was from years and years and years ago. And I was part of a course, and we all became friends, but we actually didn't know each other at all. And so I find that I've never gone on with Facebook as a kind of business person and as an individual in that way. With Twitter, I just can't say things in 140 characters. It just takes me too long to structure something that I want to say, and invariably everything I put on there is too long, and I've got to take time to shorten it, and it can't be retweeted so easily. I don't find it good for engagement, but in terms of keeping up with what's new and things that I want to find out about quickly, absolutely fantastic. I think that's kind of second to none, really. So I think Twitter very much has its place. But engagement, I've had no luck with engagement on there at all. Google Plus for me is just so completely different because I think it ticks all of those boxes. And although I can't ever really see my Auntie Mavis and Uncle Jack coming over to Google Plus, I think it would completely freak them out because it's just the user interface is just there's too much functionality in it, which makes it too complicated. And why would they want to move over? Because they're quite happy there. So, there's a number of my friends who've come to Google Plus and then ran back to Facebook and said, oh, it's awful over there, don't go over there. That's just, this was initially when it kind of first came out. And I can see that, but I feel like I can be more of a authentic person, an authentic business person here. I'm not trying to say things in a kind of punchy way on Twitter, or trying to make connections in a kind of slightly I don't know how to describe it. On Facebook, I just don't know who the people are, whereas on Google Plus, I just find it so kind of embracing, really. And so from a brand perspective, from clients, I think they completely understand that they need to be on here and they want to be on here, but it's actually who are they when they're on here is more of the issue. Because kind of bigger brands need to have a face of the company, and actually a lot of them don't want to have a face of the company. They want to be a brand, and it's more difficult to engage as a brand than it is as a person. So I think there's quite a lot of learning and education, and I think absolutely everything that Phil said about where is your audience, and that the audience, if they're on other social networks, then why would they move to a new social network? I think that's interesting issues, but I think Google Plus is just something fantastic and different, and allows you to do all sorts of things all together in one place that the other social networks are just very kind of channeled in a certain way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I just we'll pick up a little bit on that. Meantime, how's the comments going? Because I can't see what's going on.
Well, we've got Heather Crafter. Yes, okay. So Heather's been commenting away, and actually she's got a question for Sheila. She says she's wondering if you've given up sleeping because you're everywhere all the time now.
Sheila, now we're gonna worry about you now, so you better actually tell us what the background of that one is.
Well, I promised Terry Lee Britton that I would be on his live Pixlr tutorial, which is 2 o'clock this morning, so I certainly won't be sleeping tonight.
Wow. And Debbie Davis says, I love that Sheila is such a great community advocate. It's how we met, and I agree with her about the value of communities. And actually, I've got a question while I'm on here, because I'm doing this very manually. When it says that there are 23 people watching, does that mean there's 23 people out there listening to us and not commenting, or are they 23 people who've said yes and may or may not have turned up? Because they're very quiet on the comments. If you are there, I think they should comment, and then I'll know.
Yeah, I don't think it's as accurate as that, to be honest. I think it could be 23 people who said they're going to come. There could be 4 people there, or there could be more. From my experience, it's not as accurate as it looks, really. Other people have found, but I don't think it's that accurate.
Okay, so if you're on the comment tracker, if you're watching this live, just say something so we know you're there. Otherwise, we don't know.
Give us a digital wave.
Wave.
Well, we've definitely got Heather, and we've got Debbie Davis, and We have Mark Stillwell said he was going to watch just as it was starting, and Jim Shankle and Volker Harbeck, but they haven't said anything yet. So maybe I can nudge them to say something, because we know you're there.
So do you think, yeah, they're lurking.
Kath, one thing you will find out, excuse me, and we're finding this out because we've actually developed a product that measures audience before, during, and after a hangout. And so there are large amounts of folks who do tell you they are going to come, or maybe they're going to come, but the HOA marketplace is extremely crowded. I don't think I need to tell anybody on the panel that, and it gets more crowded every day. I see people saying they're going to go, and I can actually see that they've said they're going to go to 3 different HOAs at the same time. Well, maybe they'll come for a moment and leave. There's a dynamic out there, and we're actually measuring that dynamic right now, because it does in fact tell you what's the engagement of your HOA. You as a producer, you want to know that you're doing this because it's something that you want to do, but you also want to make sure that you're bringing some value, people are getting good information. The one thing that people forget about is that event page that you create to start your HOA. That's a landing page, and that has a lot of potential life to it. Scott will tell you he has seen streams, and he's participated in streams that might last a week, and in some cases 2 weeks, depending upon the topic, depending upon the number of engagements. So don't let that number that you see. Actually, you as moderators can look at the bottom of your screen and see how many people are actually viewing at one time. That doesn't tell you total views, but that tells you people who are online at that moment.
So is that Peter can see that?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see there's 7 people viewing us.
So there are 7 people that simultaneously are watching.
Well, I have to say there's a lot of them just giving us digital waves. So we got Adelheid and Heather's waved, and Leela and Volker and Andrew. They're all there listening. Oh.
I think that going forward, it wouldn't take more than 8 individuals in the UK to start up Hangouts on Air, 1 on each hour, for the whole marketplace to be saturated in the UK. That's all it needs. We've only got 8 hours in the day, and most of us are at work or eating our lunch. So it wouldn't take much at all. So I do think that how social are we? It's social also means thinking about your audience, and it might be that Hangouts on Air turn into sort of 7-minute bursts, because people will think, yeah, I can do that. Maybe I could go to 4 in my lunch hour if that's how long they're going to be. But I think a lot of the marketing of your Hangout on Air is actually what happens afterwards, because I don't think everyone can make the live event. It's the life of the YouTube video and the message within that, and the added value in that is where it's going, I think.
That's a great point, Phil. And I've always said that I don't get a big audience necessarily to the HOAs that I do, but it doesn't. That's not of great concern to me. But your point that there's a lot of potential life to it on YouTube, life on the event page itself. And I predict that as many as 5 times as many people will see a recorded version of something that I've done as opposed to the live version.
So can I jump in and say that Leela has just commented on that, saying that she will say yes if she knows that she can't be there because of time constraints, because she wants to watch the replay.
Yeah.
I guess it's a way of tagging, is it?
Well, if you hit yes, then, or even maybe, then it'll be on your Google Calendar, and that's a great way of just making sure that it doesn't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, I must admit I'm exactly one of those, because I'll see these different invitations coming through for the HOAs and think, oh, that's good, or I'd quite like to watch that. But I know physically, as Phil said, I can't watch them all, so I tend to just stick them and then I go on my Google Calendar and then I might be doing the dishwasher or something, and I can watch an HOA while I'm doing the dishwasher, which is perfect.
That's it. See, I'm of the opinion that HOAs can become the new daytime television, and people will watch an HOA while they're double tasking doing something like the dishes, like cooking dinner, something like that. So I think you're spot on, Peter.
Well, and Scott's a great example because his HOA that he does with Jess is absolutely one of my favorite ones. But Scott will tell you that 99% of the time when he is producing live, I'm sleeping. But I catch the replay because, and the point is, it's great content. And if it's great content, you'll find a way to view it and watch it and get some value out of it.
I think that's a good point, David, actually, because I think one of the things is that, and okay, we're coming from a digital marketing perspective, and we're looking at for digital marketing, HOAs, and that type of thing. But then it's almost a bit like content marketing in terms of blogging and stuff like that. It's then actually with HOAs finding something that's unique, a unique slant on things. I think the good thing is when you've got an HOA, you've got 4 or 5, essentially we've got 6 of us this afternoon in an HOA, all bring our own flavour, our own distinctive interests and thoughts and ideas. So in a sense, if you talk about it in content terms, and in terms of the written content, it's almost like we're weaving a unique blog post that's live and dynamic. But so by the dynamism of what we discuss, and we can, even though you have the same subject repeated, you can actually bring out some new flavors, some new ideas, new thoughts.
Well, when I first started off, it was in healthcare, and there was someone who would record a doctor for an hour, and doctors are very expensive, and if you ask them to do a 400 or 800 word blog post, they'll spend hours coming with it so that's just perfect, and then it'll be something nobody wants to read anyway. But what Todd Hartley would do is he would sit down and just chat with him for an hour. It's structured, and then he would cut it up, slice and dice it into 10 to 18 frequently asked questions. All of a sudden, you've got 18 pieces of content for something that took a physician an hour and a half of his time. He'd sit down, you'd say hi, go on the air, talk for an hour, say bye, and that was it. And it was something, because professionals like that can just talk off the top of their head.
Yeah, I think that's it, and that's it. It's also a good opportunity. I mean, one of the things we've talked about with the whole where SEO is going, and about the uniqueness, but also about the importance that people themselves are actually blogging where they may not want to be blogging. So if content can be used and slice and dice, as you say, Scott, and actually put out just through a video interview, or even taking some of the contents of that video interview and actually turning it into a blog post. So there's lots of opportunities to actually help people engage in social media that perhaps wouldn't do otherwise.
Yeah. So I think Google made a mistake by calling them Hangouts and Hangouts on Air. What it really is, and I think David has heard me say this before, it's Google's video production and distribution service. And thinking of it that way, that opens up all sorts of possibilities that you might not otherwise think of if you just think, oh, this is a Hangout and we have to just sit down and talk for an hour in a film strip, and that's the only thing that can happen with these. It's not the end. It can be just the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Kath, any questions coming through on the comments that we just need to come back to?
Have I unmuted myself? Yes, I have. Yeah, well, there's lots of commentary about how people are using the system of tagging that they want to watch various Hangouts, and pretty much everybody is saying that they say yes if they're interested in it, even if they're not going to go along, because it goes in their calendar, and they want to be able to find them easily. And watch them at their leisure. So I think that it's exactly what you guys are saying, and Scott as well, saying that people like to catch up on these things and will continue to watch them long after the event.
From my own experience of social media, I mean, I've done Twitter, and I'm not a great lover of Facebook, mainly because I get fed up with reading about how people have had a bad day and someone's upset them, that type of thing. And certainly, so Facebook for business, I can see how it can work for hotels or things like that. The thing that's most attracted me to Google Plus, and the thing that's really in the 3.5 months or so I've been on here now, is I do quite a lot of face-to-face networking out in the face-to-face world, so to speak. And for me, Google Plus in the online world replicates the face-to-face world as closely as I think you can get it in terms of the interaction, the engagement, the conversation, because it's more thoughtful. You actually engage people, you talk to them, you understand their stuff as they're understanding your stuff. And so that's where Google Plus has worked for me. But accept also the difficulties that Kath, you've expressed about people finding that the learning curve's quite hard. My experience, I think, the same as you, Kath, sort of entered early into Google Plus, had a look around, thought can't make sense of this, and went away, and then came back in. And it's only actually because I was doing some training, I was almost forced back into to find out about Google Plus, and that was just almost like the scales began to fall off in that respect. Sheila, you were saying earlier about Google Plus is so good for you and so different for you. I mean, what is that your experience? Do you find the conversation, the interaction different from anywhere else?
Well, I think just when you have a panel like this and you've never met some of the people before, I mean, I do actually know this whole panel because I've been, following what they've been doing. But this morning with Phil, or lunchtime, I met somebody that I'd never met before. And it brings a whole new perspective to everything. So it's not quite the same as being in your office face-to-face with the client. It's, he brings somebody with him that you've never met before, and that's really fun. But what you were saying earlier about calendars and events on calendars, it's this Google ecosystem that's so great. I just find it amazing that I click maybe, and then my Google Calendar's got all these events on and tells me whether I can make the dental appointment that day or something like that. It's just amazing. So I'm carried away. But what I'm wanting to do predominantly is the sort of things that Scott was talking about, is creating educational material. Everybody's frozen. Am I frozen?
No, you're good.
Creating educational material in novel ways, and then slicing and dicing and repurposing it. And so you may use the platform as your production tool, but then your material might go onto paper. It might go into all manner of different media, including Twitter, Facebook, and your website. So that's the most exciting thing to me, is to have a production tool that's, although it's a learning curve, it's still relatively easier than sitting there with Premiere and trying to sort things out through a more complex program.
That's good. Scott and David, because you guys, as oftentimes with the States, are ahead of us. The only thing that I worked out that actually we beat you at is the time. We're always ahead of you at the time. You seem to be ahead of us.
Pretty good football.
Remember we invented football. You just egg chase. My earphones keep pulling out. The aspect of you've obviously, Google Plus has been much liver, much more vibrant in the States, and still is, and is in the UK. Is there things that you found with your experience of Google Plus? Now, okay, the conversation is very much sort of narrowed down on the Google Plus because that's where we are and that's the platform we all love. But from your experience of Google Plus sort of winding the clock back, because that's pretty much where we are in the UK in terms of we're winding the clock forward, is there thoughts, hints, tips you've had of finding Google Plus and how people have engaged, or how the curve of interaction has happened?
I'll go first and then hand over to David. Thanks for asking. The grass is always greener on the other side of, and it is, from my perspective, it's not a panacea for Google Plus. There's a there's a subset of people who are on Google Plus who get it, and it's almost like a religion. And so we all bond together and we talk to each other like we are right now. But unless you've drunk the Kool-Aid, people just don't get it. They might have social media fatigue, all sorts of other things. I joined an in-person networking group a year ago, and it cost me $25 a month. We've been meeting 4 times a month, and they've seen me develop my business, and I've talked about Google Plus and offered to do whatever to bring them on over. Not a single person out of the 8 or 9 people who are in this networking group have taken me up on it, with one exception, and it was such a bad experience for him because he was so camera shy that he hides the video that we made for him, in his website, kind of buried there. I became so discouraged after a year. I quit last week, so this is my first Wednesday that I have not, been obligated or had this meeting. It is that discouraging to me. I've given up trying to do the heavy lifting on bringing people on over to Google Plus because I don't have the bandwidth. I'm going to pay attention to those who already get it and, bask in their love and just hope that, people like David or Sheila or, others can bring people on over to this platform. How about that for being optimistic? David?
I have found, for me, because I have made the conscientious choice that I am online all day long. That's the nature of my business, and so I don't leave. I don't leave my desk most of the days. What I have found in the world of Google and just being online, I have found more genuine business relationships, and I don't know what that's all about. And I ask folks, what is that all about? And now, by the nature of what Scott does, virtually all his clients will come from online and from Hangouts and video because that's what he does. That's the nature of his business. But I have found for myself, and I've done a lot of different things in my 40 years of being in business. I can honestly say that I am more productive in my life than I've ever been before, for whatever reason. But and also there is that dynamic of relationships and business relationships. And I'll throw it by Scott because I don't think I've ever made a statement or asked you the question, Scott. Have you found the same with the relationships online versus offline? Now, I do know you spend a lot of time offline in Seattle, but now you're not going to your networking group anymore. You'll make a new networking group online somehow. I know you'll do it. But what have you found in terms of that business relationship kind of thing?
If I understand your question correctly, David, comparing online and offline for business, I have made more personal friends and more business acquaintances in the last year than I had in the previous long period of time. I've been very, very engaged, very productive. For me, Google Plus is a rich enough environment, a worldwide community that has lots of activity and it's not a small community at all from my perspective. It might not be. I have precious few friends in the real world I've been able to bring over to Google Plus, and precious few no family that has come over to Google Plus. And I've heard that this is pretty common with other people. So there's an online family, I suppose, that we have, and it's just wonderful. I've just grown to know and really like and respect so many people. And I've got a theory that these Hangouts on Air, or just Hangouts, really promote. They accelerate relationships. and we could do an entire program on that. But I think it's possible to make more friends and more acquaintances and have deeper relationships more quickly using Hangouts on Air than almost any other way that you could do it.
Okay, guys. Yeah, sorry, David, you're going to say something?
I was going to say that Scott and I have actually conducted business together online. And someday we will meet, Scott, won't we?
Absolutely, absolutely.
But we've known each other for, well, I guess it's approaching a year and a half now. And we met online in a Hangout. And I've almost like introduced him to a business partner of his who lives in the same city that he does. I mean, it's amazing how these things work, and I don't know. Maybe it's the size of things. It's you can cover more territory online than you can offline. I know.
Well, I think that's definitely true of this Hangout On Air, because I think, well, I worked out that Scott is actually 4,777 miles from me. You, David, are about 2,000 miles, I think, from Scott. So, Scott, you really are at the end of the world out there in Seattle. Okay, guys, we've just passed the 45-minute mark. I did say we'd do a 45-minute, and I'm going to try and stick to that, because I think, well, we could be here all evening chatting away, couldn't we? And but I want to respect your time as well. So just want to pass over to Kath to see if there's any sort of final comments from the comment stream, just to follow up with.
It's been really busy, actually, and mostly just to wrap up, to say that there's so much agreement about the substitution for the face-to-face on Google Plus and how excellent that is, and there's massive agreement out there. In fact, Debbie Davis says she wanted to capture Peter's comment at 35 minutes exactly. Because she's just met with a potential client who's pushing back about Hangouts because he can't imagine that they can replace face-to-face to any degree. And that's exactly what we've all been saying, just how fantastic these are in terms of meeting new people. And I've met more interesting business people over the last few months than I have met in years. Really, people that I'd be interested in working with and collaborating with. So I think it's absolutely unique and fantastic, and that's what the comments are all backing that up. Everybody's just loving it.
Yeah, and I think to say about face-to-face, I don't think I would stop doing face-to-face, because face-to-face has a uniqueness about it that even online I don't think can replicate. But it is as close to, I think, from an experience perspective. And I think one of the things I think will be good with Google Plus, when there is more and more take-up, and you can then begin to face-to-face with people you've already met in a Hangout or on Google Plus in some way, then I think we'll really begin to see things motoring.
Can I just, jump in there, Peter, and say, because when I first started using the Hangouts on Air, it was purely thinking like we're doing now, we're having an online show, and trying to think of ways of bringing my clients on board. It was actually when we had all the terrible storms here down in the UK, especially this part of Cornwall. I have a client who wanted a marketing meeting. They got about 7 or 8 people going, and it's about a 2-hour drive for me to get there, 2-hour drive to get back. There'd be a 2-hour meeting in between, and there were trees flying all over the place. And I said, well, I can't get there. It's too short notice. However, I can arrive via Hangout on Air, to which they had no idea what one of those was. So I just asked them to stick a computer screen at the end of the table where I'd normally sit, and I was able to arrive before anyone else, strangely enough. So when they all walked into the room with all the chairs around the screen, I was able to wave at them all as they all walked in. And they thought it was absolutely amazing, and it meant that, and I didn't have to worry about taking any notes, because obviously I had a recording of it afterwards. So it was brilliant. And the way we've thought about this afterwards was, you might have your initial meeting when you meet a new client a face-to-face meeting, but instead of thinking, well, we'll meet again in 3 months' time or once a month, you could get together for just 10 minutes at the end of the week and have a quick catch-up about how things are progressing using this technology. So in a way, you can have more connections and more kind of, you can grow that relationship with your client a lot quicker by actually using Hangouts there than arranging a meeting in 6 weeks' time and checking your diaries. You can just catch up for 10 minutes on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that's really excellent.
That's a great point.
Okay, I'm just going to pass back down the film strip just to sort of give final opportunities to comment before we say goodbye. So, David, do you want to just wrap up from your perspective?
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'd ask you the question, Peter. How'd you enjoy your first HOA experience?
Actually, I feel far more chilled now than I did about an hour ago.
Wait till tomorrow.
And it's actually been a real pleasure. I've forgotten they're actually on air, and I've just remembered again. But it's been really relaxing, and that's all pretty much down to the guests we've got together this afternoon. So thank you for that, David, and thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate that. Scott, do you want to say something?
Well, I've really enjoyed meeting Phil and Sheila and Kath and actually you, Peter, because this is our first. Though I somehow felt like I already knew you simply because we had corresponded before, and this is just a wonderful. This has just been a wonderful hour, a nice, pleasant conversation. Thanks. I really enjoyed it. I hope people who are viewing feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sheila?
It's been fantastic, and I must say I really love your title of your show. It's a great title, The Great British Hangout. It's got a good sense of humor, and it's really nice that you haven't made it exclusively British. And it's the great is the important bit, not the British bit. So super.
Thanks for that.
Well done,
it's actually Cass' brilliant idea, and we ought to throw a little bit of light on that actually for our UK friend, for our US friends, because it may not be apparent. There's a TV program. What do you want to say about it, Kath?
Well, Great British Bake Off, which I only discovered through my Facebook family and friends because they were completely obsessing about it. And it's a baking show. You might have it in the States. I don't know. It'll be called something else probably. But everybody bakes something and somebody gets eliminated every week, and it's a reality show around baking.
It's very British.
Well,
very British.
Well, I'm going to just jump in right now. I'm not sure if we have that, but David is going to be on a premiere show on Monday, are you not? That has something to do with that?
Yes, I'm going to be Chef Dennis Litley, who lots of us know because he's got a high visibility in Google+. He is. I suggested to him several months ago that he does cooking, shows folks how to cook, which is his roots. And he finally took me seriously, and he's starting a show on Monday. And actually, he's got a co-host on the show, a woman by the name of Susan Sarah, and Susan is a foremost expert on kitchen design. So it's going to be a cooking show and kind of a lifestyle show, what happens in the kitchen, and they've asked me to be their first guest, and so Chef Dennis is going to teach me how to cook chicken marsala, and I'm going to be at my computer cooking, and he's going to be at his, and Susan will be at hers, and so we'll have a lot of fun. But that's the beauty of what we're doing. That is absolutely the beauty of all this, that we can be doing our things and sharing information, and all of us are probably in our homes right now, and we're visiting with each other in our homes. So there isn't anything more engaging than that.
That's great, and I think I did get an invitation for that one, so that's one I'll be definitely checking out. And David, just to mention as well, do keep us updated with the tool you mentioned to sort of monitor how these things work. I think it'd be really interested to see the stats on
I
that.
will. I'll send everybody today, or actually, I'll put it in your event stream. I'll put a link to what we're doing and a video. We did a live presentation this week about it. I'll put a link in your event stream.
That's great. That'd be fantastic. Phil, do you want to say something just briefly to wrap up from your end?
Yes. Well, thank you, Peter, for inviting me on this show today. I really appreciate it, and it's great to meet you, David and Scott.
Likewise, Phil.
Thank you very much. And I'm running the Genius Loci business show on April the 2nd. Is going to touch on, it's called, the subtitle is the UK experience, which Kath was on my last month one, and we're looking at collaboration between the UK and the US, because I think this whole thing about HOAs and how we're meeting people from 4,000 miles away opens up whole new worlds, I think, for business and friendship and beyond. But it's been great this afternoon, and nice to see you for the second time today, Sheila, in a HOA. And then it's great to see you, Kath, doing so well. Yeah, so it's great. It's wonderful. I've had a really nice time. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Phil. Thank you so much for coming on. And Kath, just final over to you before we wrap things up. My Robin for the day.
Well, in the Batcave, it's all happening. Next time we'll have comment tracker working so that we can do it the way the professionals do it. But it's been quite interesting watching the comments as they're rolling up. I've got split screen, and then trying to keep up with everything. So I can understand it's really difficult to do this on your own. I couldn't possibly do this on my own. So I think the idea, the suggestion Peter had, that we did this together and kind of try and alternate a bit perhaps and get experience, as well as trying to embrace as many kind of UK people and people from over the pond who are paving the way before us. It's all just that collaboration, and it's wonderful. So well done, Peter. You did a fantastic job. It's great, and thanks for letting me be part of it.
Well, thank you to everyone. Thank you to David and to Kath and to Phil and to Scott and to Sheila. This has been the Great British Hangout practice. It's our second practice. The first one wasn't on air. This one is the first one we've had on air. We've been talking about how social are you, and I think we've gone all around the house a little bit. But thank you for joining us. We're sure going to be having another event at some point, so do check that out. And it's good night from her, and it's good night from me. Good night.
Good night.